MC's author.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV, and I'm the editor here at MetaStellar. And we're here to talk about the #1 best-selling free speculative fiction book on Amazon today, and it's got Shape-Shifting Reindeer. But before we get to that, we have 9 other books to get through on today's top 10 list. And yes, I did say Shape-Shifting Reindeer. We are already in the Christmas book season, and we barely passed Halloween. Yes, the Christmas book season comes earlier and earlier every year. Anyway, that aside, every single Friday, the team here at MetaStellar reads the first few chapters of every sci-fi and fantasy book on Amazon top 10 free list. Today, MetaStellar editors Alex KOROLOV, Melody Friedenthal, and Mary Stoll contributed reviews, as did community members ROMEL, MADRAY, and CHRISTINA Brown, who are here today. And let me see if I can show you guys. Hey, there's CHRISTINA and there's ROMEL. We're glad to have you. And another new community member, Matthew Levinson, also contributed a review and also couldn't make it. But thanks for you two for coming. It's so nice not to be alone up here.
Yeah, hi, glad to be here.
Glad to be here as well.
So today's top 10 list features fantasy warriors, creepy AIs, a fairy princess, the aforementioned shape-shifting reindeer, space accountants, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in the flesh. The link to the full article is in the description box below. For those who are new, MetaStellar is an online magazine of speculative fiction, and all the content is always free for our readers. We publish original short fiction, reprints, excerpts, essays, and lots of book reviews, like this one. We are able to do this and keep all content completely free thanks to our Patreon supporters. And also thanks to our Patreon supporters, we have our first anthology out, available in print and electronic form at all the major bookstores. And the link to that is in the description box below as well. We have recently completed our fall submission cycle, and new original short stories are going to be published starting a couple of weeks from now. And we have a lot of new stories and a record high number of submissions that came in this fall. So thanks everybody for helping out. All right, so let's go on to the list. Today's top 10 book was Shadow of the Winter Moon by Cam Sinclair, the first book in what will be the Caven Chronicles dark fantasy horror series. CHRISTINA read the beginning of this book. And CHRISTINA, what do you think?
So yeah, this is the first book of the series, and it's not clear how many books they're going to be in total, but we start with these 2 characters, Huni and Tober, young friends kind of in this medieval setting. They work for this very unkind blacksmith and end up in a tough situation where they basically have to flee town. And they're kind of on the run because their boss died and they're worried about getting blamed, and they wanted to move on to better opportunities, and they meet this strange man traveling on the road who they think will be okay. It turns out not. There's like attempted rape, and his friend kills him at the last minute, the traveler, and cuts off his head. And then the guys are on the run again to this city of Craven. And then in the next chapter, we change points of view to Relam, who I think is kind of a central character. He's a beggar and sees something very ominous in a tavern, kind of this strange person, and he tries to tell people, but no one seems to notice. And we're left with this person revealing himself as kind of this reptilian hell creature, and chaos breaks loose. And then afterwards, it also changes point of view to the other main character, Sherrick, I think is his name, and then the story progresses from there. But I think if you're a fan of very dark, very grim fantasy, this might be for you, like Game of Thrones fans. But if you have any sort of a sensitive disposition like myself, it may not be for you. So just take that with a grain of salt.
Your mic. your microphone.
Thanks, Romel. Next, we have The Revenant of Thraxton Hall by Vaughn and Entwistle. The first, and there it is on the screen, the first of 5 books in the paranormal case books of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the historical mystery series. The other books are $5 each, and the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. For those that don't know, Kindle Unlimited is one of those all-you-can-read plans. You pay $10 a month, and you read all the books you want, kind of like a Netflix for ebooks. I like it. I read a lot, so I remember. This is not sponsored by Kindle Unlimited, but it's a great deal if you read a lot. So this book was read by new community member Matthew Levinson, who's not here today. So Romel, can you tell us what he thought about the book?
Sure. Well, from reading the review, the book's protagonist is Conan Doyle, who you may know as the real-life author of the Sherlock Holmes series. Doyle has decided to kill off his beloved Holmes, and the mob lobs vegetables at him on the streets. Then a mysterious lady begs for his help to save her from her premonitions of a murderer shooting her. So, okay, after the fact, isn't it? He joins forces with an actor who plays Watson and with playwright Oscar Wilde, and they are in deep. Well, that's interesting. Matthew read the first 2 chapters, but was pleasantly surprised. He says that the initial idea of reading something about the author Sherlock Holmes and an actor for Watson as proxies for the real deals, along with the mentions of the real magic, threw him off. But the book reads well, like really well. So that's a high compliment there. The wording does get a little excessive, but I would assume that this probably goes into the Victorian era kind of writing style of Arthur Conan Doyle. But once you get used to it, the author conjures up lively and imaginative scenes. The story includes some spirit magic, steampunky elements, so anyone who enjoys those vibes might also enjoy this book.
Thanks. Next, we have number 8 on today's list, A Christmas to Remember by Zack, a standalone book of holiday fantasy, usually $3. And the author has several books up on Amazon and are all in Kindle Unlimited if you like her style. And CHRISTINA, you read this one. What did you think?
So take Shadow of the Winter Moon and think of the complete opposite, and you'll have A Christmas to Remember. So we start with Ellie, who her mom got remarried to this guy who seems like kind of a jerk. He seems like he's kind of spending the family's money and he's making a mess around the house. And Ellie gets surprised by the fact that her mom's going to Paris for Christmas and Ellie's going to be alone, but she has to stay with her grandfather. But turns out grandfather is like Liam Neeson, and he has a fireplace and he makes stew and homemade biscuits for dinner. And I feel like, why not just move in with him anyways? And so they're staying together for the holidays, and she gets this task from her grandfather that she has to secret Santa gifts to people, and she gets $500 to do it. And it doesn't, get that far in the story as to, what she does from the first couple chapters I read. But then there's this cat that shows up, a mysterious cat on her doorstep. And what happens is once this cat comes into her life, she starts having these mysterious dreams, and there's a handsome stranger involved. And so I think there's some romance dream magic that happens in the future. So if you are looking for something light and fun and Christmassy and you love cats, or if you just read something very dark and want to be uplifted, then I think this could be for you.
Okay, next we have 7 Players by Adam Wodyk, a standalone dystopian thriller. And Alex read this one, and again, he couldn't make today's taping. So ROMEL, can you tell us about this one?
You're muted.
And ROMEL, now you're on mute.
I'm sorry. from what Alex wrote, this book is for dystopian sci-fi fans. So for people like me, I suppose, because I love dystopia, not in real life. But so this book is about Max, who's a young man who stars in the movies of the Imperial, the largest of 7 metropolises. But here's a twist. Using advanced tech, the film's creators implant an artificial consciousness into Max and all the other actors while they're supposedly acting. This means that they can't control their actions and don't remember anything that happens while under the control of the implanted consciousness. So it sounds a bit like Ready Player One. Also, none of the regular people who see the films know about the creepy artificial consciousness that controls the actors. Well, for Alex, this book made his skin crawl. But the fact that this implanted consciousness idea made him so uncomfortable makes him want to finish reading the story in the hope that the main characters defeat the bad guys who use the advanced tech in such an invasive way. So yeah, Alex says he'll finish the book, but man, does he really find it creepy. I think it would. Yeah.
Sounds like something you would read.
It's something I would have written, because I kind of have something along that line.
Oh, something you would write. All right, even better. Okay, next we have number 6, To Be a Fae Queen by Tricia Copeland. The first of 2 books in the Realm Chronicles fantasy adventure series. The sequel is $4, but both books are in Kindle Unlimited. Mary Stoll read this one, who's not here. So Christina, can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so Tatiana's a Fae princess and the last of her line, and she's had a lot of loss in her young life. And now her Middle-earth kingdom's threatened by a dark force, and she thinks of herself as anxious, but actually is a fierce and cunning warrior and leader. And through this, her people are able to quell one threat, but her battles have just started. She's discovered she's going to be a queen, and she's only 15 years old, and so she has got romance and running a country and all of these things to do at 15, which I can't imagine. But this story moves quickly, a lot of action in the first couple chapters. The characters are interesting with a good plot. And Mary says that fans of Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses will enjoy this book. So yeah, that sounds good.
Next, we have one of my books, The Teralin Sword by D.K. Holmberg. And this is actually a box set of the first 3 books in the 6-book series of the same name. The other books are $4 each, and the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. And D.K. Holmberg has been on this list a lot before. I've read some of his other books that I liked them a lot. So I was really looking forward to this one. So the story is about Endrick, who's the king's younger son. He's a member of the country's military. But unlike his older brother, who's the good son, Endrick's a bit of a wild card. He's refusing to take a leadership position. He gets into fights and bar brawls, and he's demoted all the way down to city patrol in hopes of teaching him some self-discipline. Meanwhile, his brother goes off to fight at the front, and something weird is happening in the city. There's mages that are involved. There's miners who are mining a magical metal. And there's some kind of tension between them and the rest of the city. And there's a creepy member of the military who's sneaking around at night, meeting up with one of the mages. So what Eric should be doing is keeping his head down, learning to control his temper, doing his job, sticking to his patrol route, and maybe going and getting some anger management counseling or something. But instead, I'm going to bet he's going to defy his orders, and he's going to investigate, and he's already following people around and abandoning his route. So I'm kind of annoyed by him as a character. And also the story is a little grim and depressing for me and starts out slowly. So I do think that the story is setting him up for an interesting redemption arc. and the book promises that there's going to be some violence and lots of action coming up. We already had a bar brawl. So I think if you're the kind of person who likes Game of Thrones and similar books, you might enjoy this one too. Next, we have Immortal Vegas by Jenn Stark. And no, there we go. Immortal Vegas by Jenn Stark, a box set of the first 3 of 11 books in the Immortal Vegas Urban Fantasy series. The other books are $3 to $5 each, but they are not in Kindle Unlimited. And I read the beginning of this one. I read the beginning of this one twice. The first time was a couple of years ago. And the book starts out with Sarah Wilde, who is an artifact hunter, and she's hunting for magical artifacts. And she's on assignment in Rio de Janeiro, and she has to go into the middle of a magical orgy, naked, in order to steal an artifact. It's a very, very sexy scene. She's getting paid $50,000 to retrieve this magical jade amulet from a human sacrifice sex cult. And she's getting caught up by the sex magic in this orgy. And just when she's almost pulled into this orgy, a mysterious person uses a psychic connection to her to help her out and kind of saves her from getting caught up in the sex spell by being all sexy himself telepathically. And she has no idea who it is. So there's a lot of fighting. There's an exciting chase scene. The entire cult is after her. It's a lot of fun. It's very funny. When I read it a couple of years ago, I definitely thought I was going to stick with it, but I got distracted and never wound up coming back to it. But now that I've reread the beginning again, I'm caught right back up in it again. It does seem like a fun, sexy read, a really nice break if you're sticking at home all weekend because you have a cold and you're lying under blankets. And this is a fun book to read. Next, we have Blessed by Brandi Elledge, the first of 3 books in the Academy of the Seraph Paranormal Angel Romance series. The other books are $4 each, and the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. Did I show it to you?
I think that was 4, like it was before the other one.
Oh yeah, we accidentally had the wrong covers in the wrong places. Thanks for catching that, Christina. So that's what the cover looks like, but it should be 3, not 4. So Mary Stoll read this one, but she's not here with us today. So Christina, can you take this one?
Yeah. So humans are tested at age 15 to see if they have at least a 10th of the angel gene. And if they do, they can be admitted to the Academy of the Seraph. Many human children hope for the chance to be admitted to the Academy. And those that do well in the Academy become warriors in the war between angels and the Darken. But Gabriella is not interested in being anything but human, even though she knows she's not. She's done everything she can to avoid being tested for 2 years. She's a tough, wise, cracking foster kid, and she considers being blessed more of an infection. When she's tested, it's discovered that she is blessed and sent to the Academy, where they discover she is much more. Mary says the characters are fun, the story moves along quickly, the plot's interesting, and she's invested to finding out what happens next.
All right. Next, we have the most fun title on this list today, I think, The Transgalactic Insurance by Andrew Moriarty, which is the first of 5 books in the Adventures of Jump Space Accountant space opera series. The other books are $4 to $5 each, but the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. And again, I love this cover and the premise here. And ROMEL, you're an accountant. So what did you, and you read the beginning of this book, what did you think of it?
Well, it's easier to read than IFRSs and tax codes. For sure. But actually, I kind of liked it. I mean, from a technical point of view, I would say that they didn't talk a lot of accounting, but thank God. But it's basically about this guy, Jake Stewart. He's in college. He's studying to be an accountant. He's young, he's a wallflower, he's a bit naive, and he gets this job, and basically he comes across some fraud, and he decides, trying to figure out how his way in the world with it. I would actually stick with the book out of sheer loyalty to the tribe. I will support the pencil protectors out of loyalty. It's a little bit slow, but the writing is very good. I think the author is a bit too narrative, but it's a good, I would say it's a good read, and I would want to continue reading it to see how it ends up for him. So yeah. And the other review, okay.
All right. Yeah, we also had somebody else reading this book as well, but we can skip that because your review pretty much covers it all. All right. Next we have the number one book on today's top 10 free science fiction and fantasy list on Amazon. Ta-da! Christmas Magic by Alexandra Moody. The first of 3 books in the Christmas Magic Urban Fantasy series. The other books are $4 each, and this series is not in Kindle Unlimited. So if you want to read the other 2 books, you will have to pay money for it. I read this one, and it is a lot of fun. It's like a Hallmark movie, but in paranormal romance form. So Cleo is 19, and she's hiding out in a small town in the middle of nowhere in England. She was born on the North Pole, and she and her mom left when she was a kid because she has some supernatural powers, more supernatural powers than she's supposed to have. Most magical people have their powers heightened around Christmas, but she's at full strength the whole year round. And if people find out, she's going to get in trouble. So she's hiding out, and so what happens is she goes to the supermarket to buy some mac and cheese, and Christmas music starts playing, and she gets really pissed off because it's not even Halloween yet, and there's already Christmas everywhere, and reminding her of the whole Christmas thing, and she gets really annoyed. Drops her groceries, stomps out of the supermarket, goes to a bar to have beer, because I guess in England you can drink at 19. And then as she's getting really, really wasted, a reindeer walks into the bar. So I love this premise. It's not an actual reindeer, it's a reindeer shifter in hot guy form. And she's like, oh no, another magical person has shown up. I better get out of here. So she ducks out a side door and heads back to her apartment. But as she gets close, she starts scenting the smell of candy canes. And she knows that means that there are elves nearby. And yep, there are elves waiting in an alley for her to show up. And they start shooting at her. And there's a little bit of a battle that takes place. And she's trying to make a break for it when the reindeer shows up, this time in reindeer form, and saves her, but takes an arrow to the gut in the process. So the dark elves disappear. She bandages up the reindeer, takes him back to her apartment to hide him and for him to heal up. So she's worried that more dark elves are going to show up. She's worried that they're hunting for her. So this is a great cozy beginning. Kind of gets you in the mood for Christmas. So after I got done writing this review and filed the story, I actually came back and continued reading this book. It's cheesy, but it's fun cheesy. And So apparently this reindeer is on a mission to save magical beings from the dark elves. So he's part of a crew of reindeer who are going out to save people. And they kidnap Cleo and take her back to the North Pole to keep her safe. And she does not want to go. And instead she offers that they try to set a trap for the dark elves by using her as bait. That way she can get out of there faster and go back to her normal life. So I love the premise. It's a lot of fun. It's very, very cheesy, but it's just an enjoyable, light holiday read. All right, and that was it for today's books. If you like this kind of content, please support our channel by hitting like and the subscribe button. You can also support us on Patreon. Your support helps pay for original fiction on the MetaStellar website. All the donations go to the original fiction writers. None of it goes to overhead. All the overhead costs are donated. So please support our site. If you don't want to miss any of these, we do the free Fridays every single Friday. You can subscribe to our newsletter or ring the bell to get the alerts, whatever. I mean, you probably know that better than I do. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Christine and ROMEL, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And enjoy your reading this weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.